joining you from Trackside Villa Park, one of 11 trackside off-track betting locations in Illinois. For more information, visit tracksideotb.com. HorsePlayerNow.com's Joe Christovac, joined by The Natural, Brian W. Spencer, and King James Dixon. And we're going to talk about class. Not sure why James is here. That's why I'm going to go to Brian first. Brian, when you hear the word class, when it pertains to horse racing, what's the first thing you think of?
First thing I think of is just the conditions of races, your general race classes, claiming races, and all of those can have other conditions, non-winners of 2, non-winners of 3, whatever the case may be, but there's also other ways to look at class. Just certain horses. Think of a horse like Zenyatta recently. Probably the most recent horse that just exudes class. Her name is synonymous with class. So the way a horse carries him or herself, the way the horse performs at different levels is capable of just handling whatever's thrown at him. That's a classy horse, which is obviously different than the condition of a race, which you could also call class.
And this is a night school class, so there are many different definitions of class. Let's talk about the race conditions, James, because in handicapping, it is extremely important to know how a horse fits in a race. And here in the year 2012, there are so many different class levels, more than we saw even just a few years ago.
Absolutely, and I look at class from that perspective as a great, as always, betting opportunity, because a lot of times you hear in racing about back class and how the horse has the back class. One time they were way up there, and if they ran to their best back to that time, they stand out. Well, in my mind, that's an opportunity, because let's not live in the past, let's live in the now. And how are these horses running now? So I think back class presents a great betting opportunity strictly from a everyday handicapping perspective.
Well, I know you're not what you used to be physically.
No.
So that's a very good point, because a horse may have been a grade 2 horse a few years ago and they've slid down the class ladder, and there's different reasons why. It could be a physical situation, or the horse might not have the will to win that they once had.
And as James said, about back class being a potential place to maybe play against a horse, I'm very much on the same page. I'd much rather have a sharp $10,000 claimer hiking to 25 than a dull allowance horse dropping into 25. I want the now horse, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the better price on the horse who's in sharp form coming up in class than the horse who's in dull form looking for just an easier bunch, needing a confidence-building win.
And the class levels that we talk about, obviously there's graded stakes races, there's listed stakes races, there is a plethora of different allowance conditions, and now the optional claiming condition thrown in with those allowance races. And then obviously there's different claiming levels, non-winners of 2, non-winners of 3, and then straight claimers. I think we need to emphasize that there is a big difference, not only in price, but in the different class levels that there are within the condition itself.
Oh, absolutely. I think some of the conditional claiming races versus the straight claimers can be one of the hidden class drops in all of horse racing, or class hikes. I know in Southern California, where I handicap a lot, they have N2L races claiming 12.5 and then claiming 8 straight. The claiming 8 straight, even though the price is lower to buy the horse, it's actually a similar, if not better, level of horses. You have to take a look at those conditions with the claim to see if they're dropping from straight into conditions and where they're going from there. So that can make all the difference in the world.
And with what James is saying, he used the word hidden, which I have written in quotes on my paper here. One of the things that I find the most interesting is we've seen a sort of proliferation of these races that are claiming 5,000 B, as in boy. And that B stands for a lot of different things. You're not talking about a straight condition non-winners of 3 lifetime. There can be hidden conditions on there, such as a horse who hasn't won one race since July 23rd, 2011. Long story short, you can often get horses who are far superior to the generic condition of the race, a non-winner of 3, getting in on that hidden condition, and a lot of times they'll get overlooked, but they could have, potential back races that fit very well. So always read through all of the conditions.
Non-winners of a race in the last 6 months, non-winners of a race in the last year, non-winners of 2 races in the last year. Those are much easier conditions than a straight condition, even at the $5,000 level. A drop from 5,000 straight to 5,000 non-winners of a race in the last year can be a huge class drop, because the competition is that much easier. These horses haven't visited the winner's circle in a long time.
And that's where I think a great trainer can come into play, and if someone who knows how to maneuver their way through the different class hikes and drops, be sure that you're looking at the right barn. If the barn doesn't do well and a winning percentage as a total, chances are that a class drop or class hike that seems suspicious probably won't be profitable. If it's a great barn, like say in California, like a Mike Mitchell or a John Sadler, you're probably going to get some reasoning behind why they're doing what they're doing, some expertise, and then I would say go with it.
And in this day and age, Brian, with purses as high as they are at some of these racetracks, you're not afraid to claim a horse for $7,500, drop them in for $5,000, non-winners of a race for the year, go off at 2 or 3 to 5. The wagering doesn't matter. It's all about the purse money and the owners that are able to earn that purse money.
And that's the thing to remember too, is a lot of times you're not going to see a huge purse difference between your, say, open 5,000 claiming race and your non-winners of one race since whatever date it may have been. That's where you want the human connections that James brought up. That's where you want reading the condition book. If I can run in a similar spot with a similar purse against an easier field 10 days from now, I'd much rather have my horse in that if I'm the owner and I'm just looking to cash a purse there.
Now, on the other side of the coin, we talk about horses having class versus class and conditions. To me, a horse has to earn their class. They have to do it in graded 6 competition. They have to show some guts. They have to show some grit. 2-year-olds are running on physicality. Some of them mentally develop more quickly than others. 3-year-olds and 3-year-old stakes, they're still earning their class. So you could have a horse that just won a maiden race or just won an allowance race, step up in the graded 6 competition in the 2-year-old ranks or 3-year-old ranks and perform very well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some of these 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, like you said, they make this huge leap where it's, we'll call it hidden class or just it's genetics coming through, where they all of a sudden flourish like that. A good example for me is Curlin. Curlin, makes his debut in January of 2007. All of a sudden, he becomes this freak of nature, where it's just out of this world. When you get to the older horses, you won't see that kind of jump. In fact, it'll probably be a reversal in class where they regress that quickly. But the 2-year-old and 3-year-old stakes, it's really tough to find that class and have it stick there.
And it's very tough to see it coming for a lot of horses.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
An impressive maiden breaker by 10 lengths going 2 turns doesn't always stack up even in a grade 2 or grade 3 when the connections get ambitious. And there's other horses who just steadily improve, and they earn that class a little bit more slowly than with, a Curlin type razor sharp performance that just makes you say, wow.
Yeah.
And that's why you say in the 2-year-old and early 3-year-old races, you still have to earn your class. If you're a 5-year-old that's run 40 or 50 times, chances are on your best day you've shown where you belong.
You know what you got.
2-year-olds and 3-year-olds are still progressing, still trying to figure out what they do best. For Brian and James, I'm Joe Christopher for HorsePlayerNow.com. Now it's time to go to class.